again. After basically roughly 2 weeks of or so of playing Starfield on cloud via my Xbox One, I have decided to do a review. Now, as you can see, obviously, I do not have a way of broadcasting Starfield itself, so I'm substituting background footage for with a different BGS title. So, where to begin? I suppose it would be best to start with the good. The good is, well, for one, the story. I love the new skill system setup. Oh, right, I was last playing my new character. Story's good. Environmental designs are good. Or art. The leveling and perk system is pretty good as well. So, although the XP gain system is kind of lackluster, the engine itself seems a lot better than the previous creation engine. Most noteworthy because of my previous experiences, which I will point out a bit. My first experience with the creation engine was on the 360 with the original Skyrim. So, the biggest problem I had with that was it crashed a lot from the engine side as far as I could tell. Every 35 to 60 minutes of gameplay, it would just suddenly crash. Didn't really get better when I did use the legendary version on my PC unmodded. Maybe I could get between 60 and 75 minutes before the engine would just crash and the game would follow suit. That was unmodded. With mods, however, in exchange for frame rate being dropped to 15 indoors and roughly half of that outdoors, I was able to play at least 4 hours at a time before the game engine would totally crash. The special edition of Skyrim, my experience was basically the same, although the durations were double that. As far as duration before crash. But frame rate was basically again halved. Now, with Starfield, on the other hand, the game, well, I was playing on the cloud, so probably would be a little different for those who play outside of the cloud. But on the cloud, the game only crashed after 8 hours of gameplay. That, to me, is a huge difference. And I say 8 hours, but that's a rough estimate. Sometimes it would have the you've been online for this and this amount of time, remember the take a break notification enabled on my Xbox to go off every hour. Not that I actually really take much in the way of breaks when it pops up, but it does help me keep better track of the amount of time I'm playing a game. Generally, sometime after the 7-hour pop-up, or after the 8-hour pop-up, sometimes almost immediately after the 8-hour pops up, or as it pops up, is generally when the game crashes. So that's not bad. That's a huge improvement over previous. And that's sort of it just works. However, Many of the traditional BGS bugs and issues still persist. Although I'm not sure how much you would classify some of it as bugs and how much the other how of it you would classify it as more of a design flaw or decision flaw for that matter. Um, Starting with the good old interface. As is the traditional Bethesda design, the interface is unfortunately needlessly bulky and clunky, not to mention of low quality textures and frame rates. Running very crudely. Another traditional part of the UI that Bethesda always poorly does and is a bad design is the selling interface for selling your goods, or should I say the selling system in general. Each vendor has very little way in credits, so you're forever running all across or the maps, available map area to every vendor that sell your junk to get money. But when you go to sell, you also have to deal with the poorly designed what's the word, bulk menu. You basically have to have at least 5 of any given item to sell multiple fast or rapidly. Other than that, if it's less than 5, you literally end up selling each item individually, which is a pain in the ass. And putting it nicely, usually with mods, people fix the clunkiness, the low performance, and the overly bloated sizes, add icons, sort systems, and even add the ability to reduce how much items need to be in a stack before you can sell them in bulk. And the fastest and most efficient way to sell things in bulk is the multi-select when you have more than 2. So that's in the realm of it just works. XP is oddly balanced. You get more XP on easy difficulties than you do hard. That, on top of the fact that the amount of XP you get is abysmal in and of itself, well, that's an obvious bad as far as pros, cons, and whatnot. So, what else? Another thing is bad is most of the armor are spacesuits in the game that have any decent stats are cosmetically absolutely horrid. So that's definitely a con. Uh, Shipbuilding's a bit challenging, but otherwise very enjoyable. Although I feel like there's not enough good variety of ships in the game. It just kind of feels like some of the more realistic and cool ships are created by players, and that's the way they'll be. It would be nice to really have a way to have people share their created ships via something like a creation club system. Another con is there's no creation club or mod support on console as of yet. Now, this could be just temporarily, as there's actually no creation club at all at the moment. However, there's not even a grayed out section to confirm that they're coming out. Although there is actually mods for the PC version already, but they're very limited. Like, as I said, there's no creation club as of yet, so they're mostly reskins and doing the interfaces and very simple things that you can just take the game files and edit the ones that you have in bat format and like. But as you can imagine, it's very, very limited at the moment. There's already like character creation presets and stuff like that, so although there's no way to really use them except for copying what you see in the image and then in the character creators, or replacing the followers I don't know the name of the file, but essentially the followers appearance file, I guess. But because there's no creation kit, there's no real integration as far as mod managers outside of a handful of pre-builds. Which, of course, also means that every mod has to be literally copied and pasted in the right folders. So, very rudimentary support. There are quite a bit of planets, of course. Again, most of them are empty and not worth exploring. Except for running around to get all the survey data so you can get more credits. As you can imagine, it's kind of frustrating at times. But again, they did a very good job. This and the story elements, especially. Scenery's beautiful. Outside of that, the vast majority of it is either, well, the shipbuilder is pretty good, although it is a bit flawed. For example, a lot of the connections between the halves are more or less automatically assigned and don't make much sense in design. Although part of it's the placements of the locations, it is difficult to design ships because you actually don't know what the interior looks like until you've bought and paid for. And if you have to change any pieces because of it, you actually get the sell for less value price than the buyback instead of a buyback price, resulting in, of course, loss of money, which makes it harder to build the ship. Companions, well, people in general look the best they've had in any BGS game. However, one thing to note is They did not carry over some of the better cosmetic options from previous BGS titles. Most of the hair is lackluster. I really wish they just updated and imported the hairstyles and tattoos from Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and ESO, because that would have improved things a lot, especially with 76's hair additional hair colors, dye colors. Another thing is here in 76, we've got this nice favorites menu in the form of up on the D-pad brings up a general menu. Right on the D-pad quickly swaps between your current weapon and last weapon used. Although I do wish it was more of a swaps between your favorite weapons or the weapons you have on you. Down on the pad's emotes. No need to have emotes in there, so maybe swap grenades or something else. And of course, right on the D-pad uses your stim packs. Quick use. Stim packs are basically renamed as med kits, trauma kits, and emergency kits, and or med packs, trauma kits, and emergency kits in Starfield, but essentially are the same thing. And I actually assign them to the favorites bar down D-pad, which seems more natural to me, honestly. I actually juggle a good 6 or so weapons in my wheel. So, the quick swap is a little nice. In the Fallout, or not Fallout, the favorites menu in Starfield is pretty much, I think, the same as vanilla Skyrim was. It's just a big plus with 3 different slots and 3 different directions that you can assign to. Very limited. Doesn't pause the game, but it does slow it down. So, can be kind of risky at the same time. Ironically, depending on the circumstances, pausing the game doesn't pause the game. So, to use a health pack, you can actually die trying to use the health pack by going in the pause menu instead of the favorites, but you can still die pulling it out of the favorites because, as I said, it slows down time, doesn't pause it. So, there's that. Now, Fallout 4, on the other hand, had a very, very good cinematic style versions of conversations. The camera would sort of rotate depending on who's speaking, whether you, the player, or you as the player, or the one NCP, or several NCPs, including companions. And it was done practically like a movie would do it. way they switch cameras. Starfield doesn't do that. It feels like it's literally the same thing it was in Oblivion. I went and played Oblivion when a friend brought over the base game for the 360. Definitely that the Oblivion didn't crash nearly as much as Skyrim, so the engine could support that just fine. Oh, another good thing, although it's sort of good, as in Skyrim, Fallout 4, all that, modders were the ones who actually gave hair weight and therefore physics. You could turn your character's head and your hair would wave around. As you can see, it doesn't do this in this game. Even if I go in and remove the hat, the hair is completely static. Starfield is the first Bethesda game to do that. Ironically, at the same time, that type of setup has actually been the standard of games, pretty much industry standard last 5-10 years. Also industry standard for pretty much any game not owned by Bethesda or developed with Bethesda support or published with the Bethesda support is the ability to see your feet when you look down within the last 5-10 years. Starfield, you still cannot see your own legs. You can see more of your shoulders in first person with different weapons, but that's it. So you are still a floating torso. Another thing, first person animations don't match up with third persons at all. During one of the interactions, and this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, mind you, when the city you're in and talking with the council that runs the city is suddenly attacked with a big old explosion and everything, I actually pulled out my gun. Well, and still in first person because it ended the conversation. And the explosion was pretty big. Alarms started going off and everything. So I pulled out my gun expecting pirates or something to start storming in. In first person, the gun was exactly as you see, straight forward, pointed at whoever's in front of you. But in third person, it was to the side and relaxed like it is right here. Now, it's not exactly industry standard to have them match up for relaxed and ready, but it would be nice to have some sort of function like that. Now, another thing that's bad of Skyrim, or Starfield, sorry, There's no vehicles. Todd Howard tried to sell it off or write it off as you've got the jump pack, and let me tell ya, it is something special. Keyword special on low gravity planets and using your jump pack to travel. Yeah, I agree. It's quote unquote special. Especially stupid. It takes so freaking long to travel, even on low gravity planets. You can actually, the speed things up the most is get into a sprint, like so, jump, and then start using your jetpack off a high altitude object. So you run and jump off of a building, start using your jetpack, or a hill, use your jump pack with it maxed out, mind you, as far as training, and you can basically maintain the same altitude for miles, but it still takes a good 20-30 minutes of doing this to reach a lot of the objectives on missions, let alone explore like that. And I haven't even tried, honestly, because of how difficult it is to travel from location to location once you've actually landed. But as far as I can tell, you can literally travel the entire surface of the planet once you land. If that is the case, god damn, it's gonna take a long, long, long time to travel around the whole freaking planet with just a jump pack and low gravity assisting you. I mean, a good example would be to start down at this camp and in as straight as line as possible, run all the way to the very edge of this map, and then back again at least 3 times. Back and forth. So, whoop, whoop. That's 1. Then you do it again. That's 2. And then 3rd. That is about the farthest I've traveled on a planet on foot, and that's because I had to for a mission. I don't know why, but essentially each location for the mission was undiscovered and could not be fast traveled, and for some reason the ship would not land any closer than the initial landing point. Even when I tried the custom destination, it significantly closer to that point. This, of course, meant I was stuck doing it on foot. So that is a bad design. That's not a just works. And let me clarify. Just like the word, oh, it's fine, when somebody says, oh, I'm fine, or it's fine, or Todd Howard says, it just works. What they're really saying is it's barely tolerable. And only if you're really, really, really patient about things. Or don't really care either way, for that matter. So anything in the it just works category basically means it's not so much bad, but it's just slightly better than bad. And that's pretty much a lot of it. Now, I haven't even gotten to the new game plus. I've basically sunken minimum of 8 hours a day since its release, and during the first 3 days I only got a total of 6 hours of sleep for 3 days because I was playing it so much. All that playtime, and I'm not even scratching the surface. I kind of got stuck on the Constellation mission. Wants me to explore this one planet's surface because apparently there's some interconnected anomaly, gravitational anomalies that I've got to travel around and do something to figure out the mystery. Well, after traveling to 4 quite distant large buildings where are large ruin-like structures where a bunch of rocks and stuff are floating and half the structures are also floating, I am no closer to figuring out what in the hell I'm supposed to be doing on that quest. The other part of the Constellation quest I still have is go to Aquila City. I have decided to avoid that for the time being and actually started working on leveling up my skills, particularly hunting down spacers, eclipser mercs, and Crimson Fleet, as well as Hostile House from Ring. So, I've been working on a combination of that, UC quest, and miscellaneous request. And I went to the resort island in got myself some of the bikinis because, well, or not bikinis, swimsuits, which feel like they're literally ripped straight out of Fallout 4. So you know modders are going to turn those into string bikinis sometime soon. After the Creation Club drops. Um, and I want to say that last Sunday, I hopped on the Nexus to see what, if any, mods they had. They had quite a bit. And ironically enough, they already have nude replacers. Including one that literally makes the swimsuit and everybody who wears the swimsuit nude. So it was quite interesting to see that. Especially considering it based off of the dates. That particular mod was one of the first 10 mods released for Starfield in the first day. Outside of that, Eyes of Beauty, DLSS or whatever it's called for NVIDIA graphics cards. And HUD/UI replacers were all among the first 10, as well as some reskins of like the Mantis armor. Now, another bad thing is the new Game Plus system. So I did some digging for the new Game Plus system. When you do New Game Plus, you start the game basically at the fake slate as a new game. The only thing that carries over is your skills. Doesn't say anything about being able to recustomize your character, change traits or classes, sadly enough. Means all your hard work on your ship and everything is lost. To make it even worse, the best armor in the whole game, not only appearance wise, but even stat wise, requires you to do New Game Plus 7 times. This means going and completing the Constellation story 7 times. And all you get to show for it? Armor that's different every time that you lose when you do a New Game Plus, and it's replaced with the next tier up, as well as a cool looking ship that apparently like has to do with the artifacts, but really stat wise is total crap. And it gets upgraded with each New Game Plus. That's it. Meanwhile, you can build much better ships yourself, and I have been using only capturing and selling ships and getting free ships to sell for credits to build my own grand grand frontier model. I wish I could share it, but it's still in progress either way. But it is big. 3 layers, cargo deck, pain in the ass to keep on having to fight Bosco because he wants to be in doorways, random doorways, blocking the ability to go past him into other rooms. But yeah, building a really good ship that I'll lose and have to start over with credits and rebuild all over again if I do New Game Plus. Apparently, only the powers and skill points are confirmed to carry over. Nothing has been. You don't. Your inventory, your items, your credits, none of that carries over. The universe is wiped clean, and it's unknown whether or not, or nobody's actually said whether or not you can recustomize your class slash origin. So the good Starfield's engine's much better. Starfield's design, or the BGS design, wastes a lot of it potential, and they reset a lot of progress and good things that they made in previous titles back to older titles. They're also behind the curve in a lot of industry standards, and a lot of the things they've wanted to make special ended up really bad. But at the same time, it just own are so good. There's what really Starfield be a crap fest and not even worth playing. However, the good of the game is so good. We have not had a Xbox exclusive that was particularly good since Fable 2 and Halo 2. Most people are gonna go, what about Halo Reach and Halo 3? Honestly, Halo 2 was better than both of them. They had their positives, mind you. They had their specialties. But as a whole package, Halo 2 was better. Hands down. That's the way I feel about it. And that's just the way it is. Because everybody has an opinion. Or, as a wise man once said, opinions are like asses. Everybody has one. And everybody's entitled to have them. I do, however, hope, really hope, that mod support comes out real soon. Oh, another improvement. See how we've got close third person and first person? Well, Starfield, and this is pretty good, has three: close third and distant third. Although, personally, I kind of feel like close third should just be dropped because, well, it's too close. But maybe that's just me. Was there anything else that really needs to mention? I haven't really worked on. Oh, annoying factor. If you accidentally take all from their companions, you somehow disable the starting gun, which is honestly always unique and better than anything you can get during your first playthrough at the very least. Or at least, as far as I've gotten during my playthrough. Which is really sucks. Although I do find it interesting how companions only need a single bullet of each ammo type to be able to use any gun in the game. And that same thing can be with explosives, but they only have one explosives clip. Bosco, for whatever reason, can't use a grenade launcher. Don't ask me how or why. You give him the grenade launcher, and all he does is shoot lasers. Though they have the same damage value, it just doesn't have the same effect, honestly. And it doesn't make much sense either. But it is what it is. For now, at least. As pointed out, once mods come out, we're gonna have so much more improved improvements on all that. I will,
John,
I will say that there's a lot of potential for carrying on the game, especially if they actually add console mods and Creation Club. But I hope that in addition to Creation Club, it uses the same currency as Creation Club on Fallout 4 and Skyrim, and that it also uh, would be nice to have featured freebies as like they did, as well as a section that's dedicated to where players upload their ship designs so that the ships can be added to the in-game database. There are a lot of pre-made ships that Bethesda made that can be sold by NCPs or piloted by random NCPs. If they could make a section of Creation Club where ships that you download from it are added to what random NCPs will use and sell, that would be really nice, especially considering some people have already went and made Y-Wings and X-Wings and even ships from other franchises like the Gundam universe and Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, uh, even some Stargate ships. So there is a lot of interesting fun to be had there, especially if we could have the ability to share ships sometime in the future. I would especially like to be able to share my Grand Frontier once I am able to complete it. Well, that pretty much summarizes my review of Starfield. I'm gonna in this broadcast, finish up this little uh, quest part, and then go play some more Starfield. So, until next week, everybody,